Okay, so for this podcast, we're going to be talking about building in parts. Now, your first 3D class, you guys were pretty much building as what we call one piece or brick models, where you were just extruding to get the shapes. We don't want to do that in our class. Instead, what we want you to do is to think about how something is actually manufactured and then build it the same way it's built in real life. So, this table, for instance, we've got some kind of a composite plastic backing for the seats. We've got a wooden table. We have a metal frame structure. We've got footings here. There's also some kind of rubber or plastic around this. So all that needs to be represented as different parts. So let's go ahead and look and see what the model for that would actually look like. So here you can see we have the metal frame, supports for the table, around the table, tabletop. All the different parts have been constructed. And if we do a blow apart, you can see what it actually looks like. So that's what we're expecting for our class. Now, for the table, it's a little bit easier to see where, because we're looking at different materials. So think about it. If something is rubber, then it needs to be a separate object from something that's wood or from something that's metal. So think about material qualities as well. Now, if we have something like this, where we have a drill which is primarily plastic, that's when we want to look at the different parts, and we can see where the parts are by looking at the seams. Where is it put together? We've got screws here. Also look at the different colors. These are all clues to build something separate. So if we were to look at a 3D model of what that would look like, we can see it here. And this would have a lot of pieces, as opposed to the table and chair, which didn't have quite so many. So just think, how is it actually constructed? And this is where reference comes in. So you need a lot of reference anytime you're building something, and you need good reference. Okay, so that's the drill. Let's look at one other instance, something like this, where it's just all wood. Maybe it's a little bit tougher to see, but you know it's built in parts. Obviously, they didn't make this or carve this out of one giant piece of wood. That would be ridiculous and would take a lot more time. And that's the same thing with 3D. If you make things in the parts that they're supposed to be, you're going to save yourself a lot of time. It's a lot easier and a lot faster to build in parts. So with the chair, you just kind of have to look and see. And we've all seen chairs. We use them every day. So we've got to just use what we know about them and bring that into the 3D. So we know that we have just cubes here. These are just extended cubes for the legs and the supports there, and then even the supports for the chair. And there's nothing really overly complicated about this. Even the back here, this isn't going to be carved out of one piece of wood. So when we see it, we know that it's got all of its separate parts, and you would just build it accordingly. And when you break it down to the parts, it's just much easier and will give you much better results when it actually comes to being in a video game or in a film or TV show.